Monday, Monday, spoke to me.
I thought it was Can't Stand That Day.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that's what I thought it was. I don't know. It's one of the two. Whatever. What are you eating now? Couldn't you have done this before the show?
No,
What is this with the? Why couldn't you do this sometime before 12 o'clock? Sitting there watching you eat is not a pleasant experience. And now you got to talk with a mouthful.
No,
even worse.
It's a drama.
It's not a drama. It's just, good afternoon, Sen Munro. Sen, I can only apologize on behalf of Men's Radio Station and my co-directors for the ne'er-do-well known as Mr. Philip Dave of No Fixed Abode. Francine Warner, all the way up there in Mill Hill. Handsome men, thank you very much. Eve Phantom. Crazy name, crazy gal.
I like to build attention, you see.
You just was concentrating on your damn toast. And Melanie Hutchins, hello to you. Matt Allen, hello. Right. It's the start of another week, and even, I don't know if it's you, even more uncertainty. Even more uncertainty. Because I have no idea what the hell's going on. I had a phone call today saying, it might be limited now to 2 families. And I go, what? Yeah, it could be just 2 families you're allowed to associate with.
Yes.
I'm going to choose the Corleones and I don't know the other ones. The Batazas.
I would associate with the House of Windsor.
Yeah. This eating of the toast. This has got to stop. This has got to stop. I'm going to fine you.
Are you going to come
Linda Dave. Hello, lovely men. Hello, Linda Dave. Do you remember her? That's your mother. Chrissy Holt, all the way from Spain, sitting on a tractor in the middle of a field. Hello, you. Hope everything's all right. Hope we've all survived the weekend. Sue Sleet, hello from Fife.
Hello, Sue.
This is marvellous. And now my cousin Francine, talk about local radio, is saying hello to your mother, Hips. Although I was so thinking about you, your father and your mother, because I passed a shop, I think over the weekend, called, what was it called? Hops and Sips. And I thought, if it wasn't heavy traffic, the traffic in London is a freaking nightmare, which we're going to be talking about with Mr. Ray Gelato, Ray Gelato, diddly-dip. He plays the sax and he's got groovy hair. Ray Gelato, diddly. There's your father looking very, very nimble. Oh, look, he's doing some squats, opening the door, he's closing the door. We don't know what's going on. Barry J. Allen, hello from Buckle. Is that where you are? Buckle, B-U-C-K-L-E. Where's Buckle, Barry? I have no idea where that is.
Hang on.
What?
It's for every one of us.
There you go.
Lovely. Thank you. That's Barry J. That's Flash. Ed Grossman. We don't have a tune for Ed Grossman. We don't have a tune. Ramsey Y. Masalim. I love the fact, Ramsey, you always put the Y, like we're going to confuse you with the Barry Masalim or Fred Masalim. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you too. Absolutely so. Now then, we're going to be joined in a bit by a pal, and he is steaming. And it's not a musical show, in case you think I'm just going to have Ray on to talk about live albums and jazz. No, not at all. But he has been steaming recently about what's going on in London, how it's really badly affecting him. I don't mean just financially. I mean affecting him in his head, his whole mental attitude and everything. That's why I wanted him on the show, in case you think we're just here to talk. What are you doing now? What's with the head stuff? What's the matter with you today? Honestly.
Sakes, what is wrong? Why am I not allowed to move my neck if I've got a crick in the neck?
Because, first of all, we've endured you. I can see now. We've endured you doing the Jane Kerner. Jane Kerner has said it all.
You can just call me Phil if you'd rather. But Phil Dave, do you know you are sharing your mic, M-I-C, with a genuine movie star today? Hang on. Ray, what film have you been in?
I was filming all yesterday.
Oh, you? Sorry, I thought you meant Ray.
No, Ray's not filming. Ray's not been filming. Ray does great videos. Anyway, we're going to get Ray on shortly because he just wants to have a rant, and I'm up for that. I'm not having a rant if you just, your washing machine's not working. Whatever. Sad, but not really what men's radio is all about. But what Ray is going to say, I think it's going to affect a heck of a lot of people. Bada bing, bada boom, says Sen Monroe. You're absolutely right. Oh, now your mother's getting busy with my cousin. Have they ever met?
No, I don't think so. I haven't met your cousin either.
No. Well, if we ever manage to get into some semblance of normality, which I'm now beginning to, it's just fading away like a dream, isn't it?
Well,
Fading away like.
Actually, I'm taking away the positives from this morning. Did you watch the news briefing this morning?
No, I never watched the news.
Okay.
Never.
Fine. Well, the news briefing this morning was with the chief medical advisor and with the chief medical officer. Is it? I can't remember. Anyway, it was
Who's the chief?
Professor Chris Whitty and Sir Patrick Vallance. Okay, they held a press meeting this morning, and they were talking about the reality of where we're at the moment. They said that yes, it's true that the COVID numbers are starting to rise again. So we do all need to play our part and try and do whatever we can to curb the spread of the virus. Good luck trying to tell the selfish population of the United Kingdom that. But anyway, let's not.
Not a hope. Not a hope.
Anyway. But what they've said is that we need to try and, wherever possible, wash hands, cover face, and maintain space. Well, we sort of knew that already, but sadly, not everyone's doing it.
Yep.
And what they're saying is that they reckon if the infection is going to carry on rising at the rate it is going at the moment, then by the middle of October, we could see around about, I think they said something like 40,000 new cases a day, which could, a day, which could lead to up to 200 deaths a day. So we know what it was like way back when, in the beginning of this, in March, where we were sort of seeing about 1,000 people die every day. And I think what people are going to do is they're going to compare it to that. And they say, oh, well, it was nowhere near as bad as that. And therefore, they're not going to try and do anything. Anyway, the upshot is that there were some positives. They did say that we need to look at how the virus is behaving. And at the moment, it hasn't mutated to become any worse than it was. It's not necessarily any better, but it's not mutated to become any worse than it was back in March. So that's something. But then again, viruses don't normally mutate to become worse. They normally mutate to improve. So technically, that's not great either. But they did say that vaccinations are going reasonably well, and they're putting us in a very strong position to be one of the first countries to potentially, only potentially, have a vaccination by the end of this year. So
let me talk about vaccinations for a sec. Because yesterday, I'd like your take on this, Phil. But most of all, I'd like the listeners' take. You got more? Have you got a whole Wonderloaf there? And during the next hour, you're just going to be eating your way through it.
It's a right.
Seriously. Jeez, what's it going to be? Roast pheasant next. Anyway, under a tree. I could see your mother coming and making baked Alaska, which would be preceded by steak Diane, all done at the table. Be nice. I think your mum should do that. What are you looking at now?
My phone, I thought it was pinging. I didn't know whether or not someone was... Anyway, can we bring Ray into this? Because he's been sitting very patient.
In a second. Ray can wait for 1 sec. Sod him. What's he ever done for me?
Wow.
1 second. I'm just kidding. Here's what I'm thinking. Listen to this conversation. I'd really, really like your view in it, and I like the listeners' view all over the world, up in Scotland and France and Spain, everywhere. So yesterday I was filming all day, and filming, you just hang around. That's all you do. You hang around. Takes forever, and I got it at about 9 o'clock. And I was you chat to people. I'm chatting to the extras, and of course we all had our temperature taken, and you're wearing masks, and you're all trying to do your best, but you're on a film set. So, and one of the extras is in a conversation, and I'm standing and I'm listening, and he says, "Well, this COVID, it's a complete conspiracy," and he goes off into the deepest conspiracy theory that you've ever heard. That it's all being done by the elite, it's all being done by Bill Gates, it's all to get rid of the population, and it goes on and on and on. All right, there's no such thing as COVID. It's all deliberate, and it's all a cover up, and it's to get to cull the population. So this goes on. So I thought, look, I've got to be with this guy all day. There is no point in getting into an argument because I'm never going to convince him. I'm just going to be quiet, because if you've got to be on a film set all day with somebody, you don't want an atmosphere. The subject of vaccinations, which you just mentioned, Phil, came up, and he said, I'm not having a vaccination. And I said, I tried to put my innocent face. Why is that? Because during COVID, they've been putting up 5G. And you must know that in the vaccination are nanobots. So I stopped him there. I said, there's what? There are nanobots. They will inject you. These nanobots will engage with the 5G masks. They will be able to track you wherever you go. To which I replied, trying to lighten the tone, well, they'll die of boredom following me. What do? I go to the local shops and walk the dog. I might stop for a coffee. That's my excitement.
Yes, he sounds very guilty, this chap.
But he actually turned to me, Phil. But Phil, you got to understand, he thought that what's Corbyn's brother called, that lunatic? Piers Corbyn.
Piers Corbyn, yeah.
What the hell did their parents ever do? Sheesh, not one, but two. Anyway, so all right. He thinks Piers Morgan is like Piers Corbyn is like a genius, and I'm thinking this is just the stuff of madness. They're not putting nanobots in injections to control the population. For God's sake, it's a freaking fact. Anyway, I was very quiet and I smiled and made my small talk. It was just extraordinary. Paul Claridge has got a point on that. Could you read that, Phil? Would you mind? Paul Claridge's point.
The eminent Dr. Renee Honderkamp said that when asked if she would take a quickly made COVID vaccine, answered, hell no, not without proper testing, when they have no idea what the side effects might be.
That's a totally different argument. That is an argument based on sanity. That's an argument based on sanity, saying, let's just see if there are side effects, because I'm old enough to remember thalidomide, and I didn't think there were any side effects for that. Okay, that's your ultimate nightmare. I can kind of go along with that. I like Paul Rothman's comment all the way from Los Angeles, push him off the flat earth. Paul, couldn't agree with you more, mate. Couldn't agree with you more. But and there were other people around the table nodding sagely, and I'm thinking, what is happening to people? Is there just a madness that's overtaking people where logic and common sense and 21st century thinking has gone out the window? Anyway, there we are. It's extraordinary. It was extraordinary. And an intelligent bloke. He wasn't some, I'm just thinking, wow. It was horrible, really.
Yeah, the upshot is that I'm afraid there are always going to be these lunatics around who seem to have these wacky theories going on.
Phil, what worries me is they attract these huge crowds in the middle of London. Trafalgar Square, like 15,000 people going, yeah, you're right. No, it's nonsense.
But 10, 15,000 out of 55 million, I'm still not desperately worried. But my point is that if you ask any one of these individuals to prove it, then they fall down. That's all you need.
I just thought, you know what? I'm here on a set all day. Just don't go there, Russie. Don't blooming go there.
No, I know. I appreciate yesterday wasn't the ideal scenario, but just wherever you are, if you ever come up against one of these individuals who claims that everything is being done and that we're not actually who we say we are and all of that rubbish, just say 2 words, prove it.
Oh, then they'll bore you for the next hour. I promise you, they will bore you.
They can't prove it. They'll talk you through it. They'll talk you into it, but they can't prove it. Any odd way. That's to one side. Really quickly, wants to mention something that happened to us. That RK and I had the good grace on Saturday evening. Sorry, Ray, we're coming to you in just a moment. I promise you, stay there. But we had the good grace of being invited to a certain broadcaster's 6 collective birthday bash on Saturday evening. Anyway, one of the 6 who was there, who I'd never met before.
No, you're not going there, are you?
Well, we said we'd talk about it on Monday.
Oh, I don't want to embarrass our host.
I'm not going to embarrass our host. I'm not mentioning who the host is.
Neither am I. Okay, carry on.
Anyway, so the person we had there, and actually I've just admitted where I should have actually been at home anyway, but never mind, whoops. Anyway, but the point is that the person who was hosting it had a small collective of 6 of us to be there. And anyway, I didn't know one of these people, and the subject of Britain's departure of the European Union came up. Always risky. Anyway, I might have said in a bit of a throwaway comment, oh, well, I'll make it radio friendly. I said to hell with the EU. Yeah. I didn't quite put it like that, but I said something similar. And this person probably got up and walked out. And I don't mean walked out as in went to the toilet. Actually left. Left the party. That was it. End of. Gone. That's never happened to me before, to be honest.
Phil's face was, we're all socially distanced. And before you think we're all criminals or something, everyone has been really pretty much in isolation. So we know each other. It's a little bubble. And we didn't know this other person at all. Never met. I think I may have met them once, but I don't recall.
Yeah,
And
because
Phil, and in Phil's defence, and I'm always down on him when I'm down on him, but Phil's defence, it was a little throwaway. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't a. I think that it's a tiny little throwaway remark. And this person stood up. I thought they were going to the loo, and then I thought, oh, it's a joke. Straight out the front door.
gone.
Anyway, so Phil sat. The only thing we were worried about, because it's actually how we are, is if we'd upset the host of this little dinner gathering for 6 people.
Thankfully,
that was all. That's all that we were worried about. We were not worried about, if you can't. It was the tiniest. It was literally one line, a little throwaway gag. Wow, I mean, people are just so dangerously crazy. Speaking of dangerous, crazy people, let's bring on a special guest. We don't normally do guests on a Monday, but there he is.
So you have to forget we don't have any saxophone to play here. But anyway, how are you?
Got a bit of Ray? Haven't you got a little bit of Ray somewhere along the line? That'd be nice. A little bit of Ray, like Bar Italia or something. That would be cool. Raymondo, how are you today?
Hang on, can I make a suggestion? Isn't this a little bit like inviting one of us onto a radio program and then playing us a bit of the show that we've already done? We know what it sounds like.
What?
Oh, anyway, right. Okay, yeah, I'll find some.
A little bit of a. Let's make him welcome.
And he asked how I was. I'm all right. No, I'm not all right. I'm livid.
There you go, Dave. So we've got a bit of Ray Gelato.
Yeah, Mambo.
That's it. Now, Ray is not here to talk about music. He's not here to talk about single malts. He's not here to talk about fine Havana cigars. He is here to talk about.
I'm here to talk about the lunacy of these low traffic schemes that's going on in London. That absolute abject madness.
Yep. Off you go.
Well,
have a rant.
Well, basically, right. We got a letter a few weeks back that they were going to bring these things in. No resident consultation, nothing. And they brought them in around where I live in Ealing. And consequently, they're all over London. And the ones around where I live, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, it literally looks like a war zone. If you walk 200 yards, they've blocked all the main arteries off. And they called our area a rat run, which it wasn't a rat run. I've lived here 20 years. And it's, you've got a bit of traffic on the side roads, but not
a pretty quiet street where you are.
Oh, it wasn't
a pretty quiet street. We've been there.
The reason why I'm so angry is the disingenuous nature and the lies that these councils are telling. Emergency COVID measures. What a load of old
bollocks. Yes.
I mean, literally, right? It's a disingenuous lie. COVID measures. Now, my point, what I've made to the councillors, and nobody can answer, is when the weather, this is all to encourage social distancing and walking and cycling. These middle-class ponces, right, in my opinion, they are basically not caring about the working people around these areas that are struggling to get back to business after this COVID. All of us, are part of this. All our local businesses, or 90% of the local businesses around here, are against this scheme. Our local shop, which stayed open, Jay's Superstore, which stayed open all through the COVID, yep, right, literally serving the community, is 40% down on his profits. And basically, so they're using this COVID thing. My point to the councillors that I've brought up are, well, when the weather worsens, which it's going to do very soon, and more people get pushed on the buses, which they will be doing without a shadow of a doubt, because they cannot walk and cycle. You can't walk and cycle everywhere to schools or whatever. And 2 of the schools where my kids go are a long way. They're right over the back of Ealing from where we live. So we don't want to drive, but it's unavoidable in a lot of situations. More and more people will be put on the buses spreading the COVID virus. So the councillors can't answer it. So they're contradicting everything they say. It's a lie about COVID, a complete and utter lie. Now, we had 3,000 of us, Russ, marching a week ago. 3,000 Ealing residents marched up to the town hall. The council laughed at us and said it was only going to be 300. They have treated us with absolute contempt. I can't speak for other councils, but I presume it's a similar thing. But Ealing Council have treated us with absolute contempt. One of the councillors after the marches, shall I say his name or not? I don't
mind. As long as it's not libelous.
No, I won't say it just in case. But on Twitter said,
he needs to sue us. Right.
He said, if these people can march Why can't they walk to the shops? This is what he actually put. Now, on that march with disabled people, there were people in wheelchairs. Another person said it was a white middle-class march and called us gammons. It was a diverse section of our Ealing community. And this same councillor retweeted what someone else said. They said, if they can march for that, why don't they march for Black Lives Matter and for trans issues and this? Now, Russ, can you believe so this same councillor tweeted this nonsense. And we're basically being treated like crap by Ealing Council. We're not being listened to. I was personally piled on by the cycling, or part of the cycling green lobby last week on Twitter, because I laid into our councillor Julian Bell, who's my words won't even tell you what this guy is all about. And next thing, I get all these lunatics coming on, these sort of now. I don't use my car in the day, Russ. I deliberately stopped a few years ago using my car in the day. I didn't want to contribute to traffic. I had enough. So I cycle, I walk. When I go to town, I get the public transport. I do not drive apart from if it's to a gig, which I can, or if I'm picking my elderly parents up. But the point is, they are completely cutting off communities from each other. These councillors are dividing communities. And they're also lying about this whole COVID thing, while people's mental health is extremely fragile at the moment.
This is why I wanted you on. One, because I thought you were going to bust a blood vessel. If you didn't vent, because we talk about it on the phone. And two, now even in LA, Paul Rothman, who's a terrific guy, is an actor. He's also a fantastic close-up magician. He's watching and listening to the show in Los Angeles right now. I've been reading about this in Hammersmith and Fulham, total disgrace. So it's not just you in Ealing, it's out in LA, people are reading about it going, what the hell is all this crap? Paula Southern, who I've known for years, hello, just right. If emergency services are further delayed, how is that a COVID measure?
Let me interrupt. They are delayed. They are delayed. There's been ambulances that have been taking 15, 20 minutes to get on their hands and knees and removing these stupid bollards and that kind of thing. And it's just they are delayed, completely delayed. The emergency services.
Here's the thing, right?
Pollution as well. Just let me say, it's being pushed onto all the main roads, which are becoming a nightmare. So it's doing nothing for pollution thing, and it's just absolute garbage, evil. It's wicked what they do. Totalitarian. That's what it is. It's totalitarian.
Right. At this stage, hang on a second. I think we should say at this stage that obviously we are very aware that nobody from Ealing Council is here to answer for themselves. So of course, if anyone is ever watching, they are most welcome to come on and defend these measures. It's important to stress that they've obviously implemented them for a reason. Now, what that reason is, clearly, is not very known to us, but we should sort of remind ourselves that they're not here to answer for themselves, and we've got to be careful with what we say. But I understand
careful to a point. But I mean, the point is this, and I get what you're saying, Phil. I get what you're saying. But here is the thing: although we mess around, pretend to be very stupid, we're not total idiots. If you're going to block a road and it's not wide enough for a fire engine or an ambulance to get through, can you explain the freaking logic behind that? What is that about? It can make no sense.
What it's about is it's not been thought up by anybody that is an expert on the roads, anybody who's an expert on transport. It's been thought up, like everything in this country, by people who have no experience, and they are just political zealots, complete zealots. Now, my main issue is, where was our consultation? If you're bringing and one of the councillors wrote back to me and she said, well, they were rushed through quickly. And I said to her, I wrote back and says, you have actually incriminated yourself with that sentence. How can you rush through a major thing like this in London quickly? This needs months and months of consultation with the residents. So I know Phil's point about Ealing Council, but they've had plenty of opportunities to explain themselves, and they keep coming out with this, just a load of old statistics and figures. They're not coming in. What they're not talking about is the human cost and the mental stress that we're under.
The nub of why I want it, because you can see, I mean, you're a pretty calm guy. You're normally a pretty calm guy. Usually, yeah. You are normally a pretty calm guy, but you just were like apoplectic over this. And all of these stupid measures, and they are stupid. I'm sorry. They're ridiculous.
They're ridiculous. And
you cannot, the overriding thing, and I have this conversation a lot. London, just make it for London just for a second, everybody. I know you're listening all over the world, but just for London for a second. London is one of the major metropolitan cities in the world.
Exactly.
It's big, it's huge, it's complicated. It is a financial hub of the world. You cannot drag it back to the times of Dickens and Sherlock Holmes and have everybody on horses and carts. It's a nonsense. We've moved on. You cannot make it, won't operate like that. It's quite impossible. Here's a note from Paul Claridge, and this just exemplifies what Ray Gelato is saying. Last week near East Croydon, the police were chasing one of the local scumbags. There's a lot of gangs there. There's a lot of drug gangs there. They were in a van, and the scum was on a motorcycle. The scumbag got away as the police couldn't get past the permanent bollards used to turn the road into a cycle lane.
That's what we've got here.
Now, Simon Buckman, I read these measures are an experiment.
6-month
to be
experiment.
reviewed after 6 months. Elected officials will have at least one eye on the polls. I don't think they care. And also, Simon, and I'm not being sarcastic, income tax was brought in during the Napoleonic Wars, which was going to be stopped after the Napoleonic Wars had finished. How did that turn out? What about your MP, says Ed Grothman?
Things time. You have to give these things time. They might still be deliberating over income tax.
Oh, that's it. I never thought. You're right. The voice of reason.
Wait. Why bring them in now? My whole point is maybe there's a case, a point in talking about these things in time, or not the way they've done them around here, or because it's a nightmare. But it's the lying, disingenuous way they've brought them in under the back of COVID, because they know we're all kind of weakened. They know that business is bad, and they've used this now. They've utilized this as their opportunity, which to me is quite plain and simply wicked. It's absolutely wicked what they've done. Now, while businesses are literally struggling to get back to work, and delivery drivers, we're relying on these kind of people. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the worst offender, of course, is sort of, as you rightly identify, with all of this hoo-ha going on with businesses really struggling. Don't even get us started on Theatreland. And yet now is the time that the congestion charge suddenly goes up to £15 Monday to Sunday. I mean,
it's another point, Phil. Another point. And the other thing is, very quickly, sorry, but I just need to say that when I was piled on last week by all these people, obviously they're like Corbynites. They've got organized WhatsApp groups, and they'll see you do something and they'll all come on and try to bully. And the argument they use is, you don't care about children being run. You don't care about pollution. The same rubbish arguments. I mean, of course we all care about pollution. We want things better, but the timing and the implementation, the way these schemes have been implemented is completely wrong and ill thought out, and it can't last. I'm amazed how London has put up with it. I'm amazed how London has put up.
That's what I think. I really agree with that. That's what I don't understand, is that everyone is so hot under the collar about it, and yet people just put up with it.
Because the media are behind it, Phil. In my opinion, now Russ was talking about conspiracies, and he knows I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but I believe the BBC and people like that and the Guardian, they're completely behind these schemes. And that's why the BBC did a report on them last week and interviewed a few people around our area, and it was completely biased for the pro-LTN schemes. That's what it showed, these beautiful, idyllic, quiet streets. Well, they're not. Not when I've seen garbage trucks knocking into other people's cars, and I've seen ambulances, I've seen delivery drivers going mad, literally drivers going to have a heart attack with all this. It's really not the serene area the BBC were trying to pretend it is. So they can stick that one up there.
Here's the thing that I'm going to read some points from Sue Sleet in a minute, and also from Martin Allen, but I want to ask you this, Ray.
Yeah.
When we spoke last week and you said, could I come on? Yeah, because I think this is a very interesting point in far as mental health. One of the things you said to me, and I'm not going to embarrass you, but I think you've raised the point. You said to me, Russ, why do I get upset if I get trolled?
Oh, what a great thing, yeah.
And I tried to say to you, 1, you don't know these idiots. 2, you're never going to meet these idiots. 3, they're idiots. But human nature being what it is, it's impossible, as though we can rationalize it. And Phil feels the same. We can rationalize it and say, they can go do one, who cares, blah, blah, blah. But deep inside, we're just humans, and the phrase sticks and stones, etc., is rubbish. Words do hurt.
Yeah.
And it's a whole thing that you're a pretty tough guy, let's be honest. You've been around the block several times. But these idiots, they're probably sitting in their mum's spare bedroom, in their in their pajamas on a laptop. It's amazing the power one can let them have. It's if you let them have it.
Without a doubt. I held my own on there. There was a few. What I ended up doing was blocking some of the hangers on because I believed they came on the same account. Some of these people operate under, and when you look, they've got one follower, so they're just complete trolls. The main guy that was a pompous prick, I didn't block him because I didn't want him to win. So I just basically said to him, "Look, we're never going to agree on this, mate." I said, I've enjoyed our little game of ping pong, but you won't see eye to eye with me. I won't see eye to eye with you. And he ended up saying, "No, fair enough." But it was just the pompous attitude of lecturing to me, and like I knew nothing because he was some kind of cycling zealot. I like cyclists. What I don't
You've got
like
a bicycle.
is,
you cycle yourself.
Exactly, all the time. What I don't like is extremists in any form, and there are definitely some extremists on that side, which I think are really wrong as well.
Very good point from Paul Rothman. Isn't it because the mayor, who should have gone by now, has another year in power to do whatever he likes? Well, many people say that he is running this. We're not in Toy Town. This is London, and he's actually running without a mandate. Is the truth of the matter, and he couldn't give a monkeys.
It's like his fiefdom, isn't it? No, it's like his fiefdom. And I think, I've got to say this strongly. I wish he would be sacked. I wish TfL would be sacked and reformed into something else. And I've just got to say as well, because I've got to look about this with balance, guys, that Grant Shapps gave the money. He was the one that gave the council. I'm not defending Khan because I can't stand him. I think he's a shocking mayor and he's really got to go. He's been there too long. But the transport secretary gave these councils the money, and now he's complaining, oh, they're not spending it properly. Well, I think the responsibility has to be shared out with a little bit with him as well. Why did he do this in the first place?
Simon Buckman always wanted to put a match onto the petrol can. We all agree. Now, yes and no, Simon. I'm going to dissect this if I may. We all agree London cannot cope with existing use. Well, the point was it was coping. It was coping. It wasn't terrible, but if you shove in endless roadworks and endless ridiculous blocking of streets, it won't cope. And what Ray is saying, Simon, is that this has all been done under the cover of the COVID-19. How about a suggestion instead of just complaining? Improving infrastructure is essential, but obviously it has to be paid for too. My problem with this, Simon.
I have a total suggestion in terms of how to increase traffic flow into the capital. I've often thought this. The trick is not 20-mile-an-hour roads. The trick is not blocking off roads, and it is most definitely not charging the bejesus out of somebody to drive into central London. Have you actually noticed when on the average journey how many traffic lights there are?
Oh,
and
it's endless.
Have you ever counted how many of those traffic lights are totally unnecessary?
Yeah, loads.
What about the roadworks, Phil? What about the roadworks? The endless roadworks for the last few years have been going on. So when, I take Simon's point, but there are a lot of things to do to improve traffic flow and stop pollution. And one is get the roadworks done and get people working on them rather than them lying there. Some of them lay there for 6 months. There's one here that's laid there for 6 months.
Extraordinary. I know, absolutely extraordinary.
Well, by me in South London, putting in the cycle lanes has so far taken nearly 2 years. Nearly 2 years. I can't understand how anything can take that long. And I'm not the quickest worker in the world, but I cannot understand how something which is fairly straightforward can take 2 years. You're building a cycle lane. You're not trying to build a rocket that would take you to Mars and back. It's a road. Can't be that complicated. Paul Claridge, the LTN are probably going to be another source of revenue, a stealth tax. My street was a quiet little side street until Bidot, I don't know what that means, Lewisham imposed their LTN trial. Now it's a rat run for drivers trying to bypass the road closures. And we do care because at the end of the road is a small part where children play on both sides. It's now dangerously busy road. Simon, you're absolutely right. The average speed in London is 11 miles an hour. Interestingly, in Victorian times, with horses and carriage, I think it was a whacking 10 miles an hour. We have gone back. I mean, as the flying eye, I used to actually observe these things and study it. And we've gone down from 20 to 15. And now the average speed in London is 11 miles an hour. But it's not because there's you see, this is what I refute. It's not use my catchphrase, sheer weight of traffic. It's not the volume of traffic. It's, as Phil says, the endless traffic lights that slow you down, the endless road closures, the endless road works, the ridiculous schemes that are put in. It's not the sheer volume.
It's the flow. It's the actual flow of traffic. This is the biggest problem. Now, I understand to some degree this urge to try and drive down, if you forgive the pun, pollution levels based on traffic. I get that. However, if you do look at the way that cars behave now and the strict measurements that they have to the strict measures, I should say, they have to be impacted upon, they have to go through these little different sort of tick boxes first before they're even allowed on the road.
Yes, of course. The European emissions.
Yeah, the emissions. That's it. I couldn't think of the word. That cars are vastly improved to what they were. So even if there was one heck of a load of cars on the road with no congestion charge and with certain traffic lights being removed altogether, they would still flow better. And arguably, if they weren't sitting there chugging away, then that would help with pollution as well.
We know ultimately, right, that we've all got to limit the use of the car. I think so ultimately. And I think that, a lot of the green policies have to be brought in. But now, what my point is now, and you can't rush them. You've got to be careful. You've got to implement them properly and in the right way. And blocking off roads literally in a whim. Literally at a whim within a 2 weeks notice, to me, is not the way to do it. Not in this pandemic anyway. It's a complete and utter mess. And the way the council just refused to listen is a disgrace, in my opinion. So, we're the residents. We're paying them.
You're the residents. They should work for you. You don't work for them. That's the truth. And now Paul Rothman, back from in Los Angeles now, live in Los Angeles, in LA, and this always got me, Paul, I must be honest, when I was last there. In LA, you can turn right on a red light, which is good. I don't know if you knew that, but when the lights are red, you can turn right because that's the way it goes. It's a strange paradox of trying to penalize car drivers, and yet they need the car industry. Well, they do. They want to take the revenue that cars bring, and also they're getting less polluting as they become more efficient and electric. The argument doesn't make sense. You can't have it both ways. If the world's car industry goes, believe me, that is a shocker. That is a shocker. But all of this comes back to my main point, which is why we're here on Men's Radio, is about the mental health and the stress and the strain that all of this puts people under. You can see that Ray is really furious.
Oh yeah,
and he's upset, and it's affected him. Now you can say, "Oh, Diddums, get over it." That's not the point. That's not the point. This is just one example of where we're being railroaded.
Yeah,
where we're being pushed around, shoved around by anonymous people who we don't know who the hell they are. And once measures like these are brought in, they don't get removed.
Exactly. And then what else can they do? What else they do?
Oh, well, they can do anything they bloody well want. This is now here's not good. Juliet McDermott, who I think you've met, Ray. In the 1930s, the Zephyr, not sure I'm spelling, no, it's exactly how you spell, train could go 100 miles an hour. The current crop of trains only reach 87 miles an hour. So much for modern technology. Well, they're safer and they're more comfortable. It's not all about speed. It is about the improvement. The one thing that nobody seems to take into account, and I do want to come back to this point, is that cars of today are so much more efficient, fuel efficient, if even, let's not talk about electric, just the normal cars. Their pollution is way less than it used to be. There's no comparison. There's really, and also they're much, much safer for the driver, and God forbid you have an accident, for a pedestrian or another car. They have improved vastly. Oh, you can turn on the right apparently on in Canada as well. So there we are. Paul Endicott, my psychedelic minibus can't get out of second gear at 20 miles an hour, causing greater exhaust emissions. Recently booked for speeding at 24. I'll be honest, I can't drive at 20 miles an hour. I can't do it.
Most vehicles are not designed to travel at 20 miles an hour. This is what is stupid. I mean, they had this great idea. You can just imagine the meeting, can't you? So it's all, how can we annoy motorists even more? I know, let's do 20 miles an hour instead of 30. I'm fairly sure that the idea, as some people would tell me, is to try and make the roads safer. To some degree, I get that, but there's no argument to be had on that front. Anyway, let's not dwell on that.
Wait, sorry, guys. Can someone just mention, decipher for me, how these measures, the Ealing Council and all these other councils, a lot of these councils are putting these LTM measures, are emergency COVID measures. I
no
do
idea.
not get it.
Makes
And
no sense to me at all.
I don't get the contradictions that they keep coming out with. So this is one of my points, that it's a blatant lie to encourage more walking and cycling and social distancing, is what they say on their leaflets.
But
Yes.
if you're in a car, you are socially distanced. If you're on a bus and a train, you're not. And if
Safest
you're on a
place to
bus and
be.
but Ray, if you're on a bus and a train, and I've been using them recently, why aren't people wearing? There's posters everywhere. You must wear a mask.
Yeah,
It's not
I
an
know.
option. They're not. They're
I know.
not wearing a mask. I don't care if you don't agree with it or you do agree with it. It's the law.
On a slightly lighter note, Ray Gelato, and a bit of a by the by, Tina Holt says hi, who she bumped into apparently the other day in Soho.
Oh, hello, Tina. Oh, yeah. Hi.
Little smile on his face. Juliet McDermott, my ex has a TVR, travel very rapidly. It does not work at 20 miles an hour. Well, TVRs, I'm not sure. Did they ever work? I love the noise they make, but there we go.
That's really strange that you say that, because a previous next door neighbor of ours from way back when used to own TVRs, and it always seemed to be in the repair shop. It was extraordinary.
Always endlessly, endless. Here's the other thing, Ray. Let me ask you this. This is like putting a match onto a bonfire. Wait for it. With all these regulations, can you explain to me why Ealing Council and all the other councils, it's not the law for bicycles to have lights at night?
It's not the law for, well, it is the law, but I see cyclists riding all over the pavement, and all this kind of thing. So, I can't explain it. And also, what I can't also explain, and being a cyclist myself, is I'm not sure what cyclists really want. What do they want? Some kind of utopia now, where there aren't any cars. What do they want? They've had everything. They've had Boris building all the bike lanes. They've had these because I'm a cyclist, we've had all these emergency pop-up lanes everywhere that have reduced lanes to one. So we've had all these kind of things, but I think the real zealotry ones want more and more and more and more. So it's all suited in their favor. And to me, that's a real middle class kind of, I'm sorry to say this, but entitlement, absolutely entitlement, that couldn't care less about anybody else.
No,
and I think that's wrong.
Yeah. Melanie Hutchins says, this is why the conspiracy theorists have a field day. Laws being passed for no obvious reason. Because you do say, you try and be intelligent. You say, well, let's try and look at the logic at it. And then you look and you think, there's no bloody logic here. This is just bonkers. It's just bonkers. Paul Claridge, Wandsworth Council suspended their LTN trial amid serious concerns over emergency vehicles gaining access to closed roads and other concerns. Now Wandsworth are being vilified for scrapping the road closures they can't win. Being vilified by who? By the same as Ray calls them, zealots.
The pro-LTN, and actually the pro-LTN people are very, very small in number. They're just very vocal on Twitter. We had a petition. There was 7,500 people signed it, and 400 pro signed it, and the Ealing Council were trying to spin it that it was thousands of pro people, and they actually didn't. It's a very, very small number of people, but they are very vocal, and they've threatened shopkeepers around here too, by the way. If you'd like to, like shopkeepers that have put in bollards to the LTNs and these posters, they have actually been threatened by pro-LTN people, some of them coming in and being verbally aggressive. And that's the God's honest truth, because I belong to the Facebook group who verify these things. I mean, isn't this despicable? Absolutely despicable.
This is the world we live in. If you don't agree with somebody, there will be a group and they will come round and be very aggressive and very abusive and extremely unpleasant.
Yeah.
Even the little tiny dinner that Phil and I had on Saturday, Phil makes a one-line gag and somebody storms out the house. Actually, this is how people are. This is how people are. There's no middle ground, which is why I've said there will be a second civil war in the United States come November. It's going to be very unpleasant. Now, Sandra Butler makes a very good point. Sandra Butler's an extremely nice lady, very generous-hearted, who suffers from not the best of health. I agree with people wearing masks, but unfortunately for people like myself on crutches, find them very difficult, as we tend to look where we're going downwards rather than forwards. I get that. But Sandra, it's when I see, and there was no need for you to explain that, Sandra, you got enough going on, but when I see perfectly healthy, fit blokes just sitting there, larging it up on the tube and the bus, I think, really? you wonder why we're in this mess, and you wonder why this mess won't go away because of you, basically.
And actually, the medical officer on the press briefing before was saying that it's all well and good those who do think to themselves, well, I'm actually not really that much at risk, so therefore I'm just going to look after my own interests. The problem with looking after your own interests during a pandemic is that you might be okay, but you're putting others at risk. Either it's intentionally or unintentionally, that is what you're doing. And that's why they say it's absolutely essential we all play our part in this.
Now, would you like Phil to read out Martin Allen's point? Have you got that?
Would he like to? Oh, I see. Would I like to? Yes. Well, why not?
I'd like you to.
Thank you. Well, in that case, Martin Allen says, Ray, the closures has nothing to do with COVID. Close a road up, the profits of the properties, and who lives down a street like that? Oh, really? Goodness. It's to do with profit, apparently. Profitability.
Is it?
I don't know. I don't quite understand the point.
I think in other words, what he's saying is that if you shut a road off to traffic, the value of the house goes up.
I think it's going to bring it down around our area because it looks so horrible.
It's not accessible.
No, and it looks, and I'm not being funny. If you come around to me, it looks like a war zone. And these planters are now being graffitied and whatever, and they're looking dirty, and cars are hitting them by accident. So they're in 2 weeks, they absolutely look a mess. The area looks shocking.
What is this? They are the best covert carriers of the virus. Dave, who are?
Let me have a look and see if I can see what he's replied. That's probably a reply to someone. So let me have a look and see.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not. I don't know who that is.
So Dave Sleet, brain, you're a mighty brain, and we thank you for all your support, but we don't understand that particular message. Julia McDermott, did you see this morning's briefings? Yeah, Phil kicked off the show with this, with me up with 5,000 cases a day soon if we don't curb the current behaviour. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
The problem is, though, that when you start talking about this rising cases, the people who that is aimed at to, in inverted commas, scare into behaving already don't care. So you are not going to scare them into doing what they're supposed to do. I really believe the only way you're ever going to get a grip on people like that is just tougher penalties. If someone is not doing what they're supposed to, fine the hell out of them, arrest them, throw them in the slammer, do whatever the heck you have to get the message across that if you are not going to comply with the law, then you're going to get what's coming.
Phil,
no, and God forbid you pull somebody up, because a guy pulled someone up last week. I think the guy was in his 60s. Pulled a young man up for not wearing the mask or moved away, and the guy beat the hell out of him. Did you see that?
Wasn't it? The bus that did that. Yeah, absolutely.
That guy should get an extraordinary long sentence for doing that. What a despicable thing to do.
You see, it's funny because I think personally he should have the kicked out of him. But anyway, I suppose fire is never the answer.
Let's go back to Sandra Butler, because she's making a very good point. She's a lady of certain years, and as I said, not in the best of health. I get some strange looks from others, but they can't work out how it can disorientate others. They can get in our eye line. So what she's saying is, because she's on crutches and she's looking down, the mask affects her vision. I get that, and people are not understanding that it's a disoriented. Dave Sleet, here we go. This is the answer to Dave Sleet's previous message. The healthy guys that believe they are okay, they don't need to abide by the rules. Yeah, but what about everybody else? This is it. It's this incredibly selfish attitude.
No. Dave is saying that they are the ones who are the best COVID carriers.
Oh, yeah, no, I get that. No, yeah, I get the point. I totally get that. Chrissy Richards, they do here 300 to 3,000 fine and jail. That's in. Oh, Chrissy Richards, another Spain. Ooh.
No, that's Chrissy Holt, isn't it?
No, this is Chrissy Richards.
That's Chrissy Holt.
That's also Chrissy Holt.
Yes.
Is that her professional stage name?
That's how
she worked, though. When she's on a tractor, she's Chrissy Holt. And when she's on the stage, she's Chrissy Richards.
We went through this a few weeks back. That's her YouTube name.
I can't follow the whole bloody thing. I can't follow it. Ray, bless you for joining us. Is there anything anybody wants to, while Ray's on the line, I know you have a huge fan base. If there's anybody want to ask Ray a question, you can ask it about music. We've got him on. Come on, cheer ourselves up. If you want to ask him when he's next appearing, where are you next appearing, by the way?
I want to ask that. Yeah, where are you next, Ray?
Ronnie Scott's next Sunday and Monday. live audience, 50% capacity, but I can't wait to do it. It'd be amazing. And
that'll be cool.
I'm really glad it's next week and not the week after, because who knows what's going to happen with all this.
So what's the deal? Ray, walk us through this, because so many people have come on and, their livelihoods have been destroyed. It's gone. Here you are, a musician. That's how you make a living. You put your food on the table like that and the roof over your head with you and Mrs. Ray and the kids.
Yeah.
Right. So explain how the Ronnie Scott thing is going to work, because it's a good example.
Well, just to back up slightly, just very briefly, yes, I've been a live musician for about 35 years, and it's the first time in that period that I've been unemployed. So I've got a few jobs, but nothing to keep a living going on. And I've always kept in work, even if there's been quiet months, as you know, the self-employment, Russ, there's quiet months, but I've always kept in the game. And this has wiped us out, in effect. So the Ronnie Scotts will go, it's a 50% capacity, which means, half the club can come in. There's different rules when you get in there, I believe. You can't sell any merchandise because of the congestion in the lobby area, which is a real shame, because that's a big chunk of my income. It's also massively cut down on the money. Now, that's not Ronnie's fault. That's because it's 50% of the capacity, and that's going on everywhere. So, for example, if you get a gig out of town that's 50% of the money, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to want to do it.
Is that because the transportation costs and possibly having to stay in a hotel will wipe it out?
Sure. Just wipe it out.
Okay.
So if it's London, it's not so bad, and it's I understand why Ronnies are doing it. But having said all that, I can't wait to get back there, and I think it's an amazing thing they've opened up, and I really hope it can stay open. If whatever happens with this lockdown, I really hope.
And serious question, Ray. By the way, somebody called, I don't know if you know him, Leo Green. Does that ring a bell? Leo?
I just can't stand him.
You've never liked. You've never ever liked.
Never liked.
It's so sweet. He says, "Thought I'd see what you guys are up to, and who do I see? Hope you're all staying well." LG.
Hello, mate.
Oh, the lovely Leo Green. What a lovely man. Here's the thing. Will the audience, in all seriousness, at Ronnie Scott's, would they have to wear masks? Have they explained what that's going to be like?
Russ, I don't know. I don't know about the seating. I think they've got some screens on the stage or something. So I'm really not sure. I know when I played in Spain just before the quarantine, I did go out to do a few gigs out there as a guest. Everybody had masks. The audience, everybody had masks. So at Ronnie's, I don't think the audience are going to be required to wear a mask. That's my take on it. I don't think they are.
Because presumably, and because this all goes back to the conversation that Phil and I have with many guests and with ourselves and with all our listeners about the entertainment industry, which has been virtually wiped out. In order for Ronnie Scott to make it viable, it's not just the ticket price to come and see Ray Gelato and the Giants. They want to be selling. Your merchandise has gone. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk of change. But they will want to sell drinks and food and everything like that. Now, if you've got a mask on, you think about it, you got your mask and you get your drink, you're going to do that. I mean, how does that work?
I don't think it will. What I predict, and I haven't looked into it, is the staff will be wearing masks, but not the punters.
Sandra Butler, very good point. Sandra's so smart, and she never ever complains. That's why I'm such a big fan of hers. And we've never met. Could they not pre-book order merchandising so you can just pick it up when you come in?
It's a good idea.
Sandra, thank you for that.
Shop, Ray. Just say to them, if you want to do the merchandise, you can buy it from here.
It's very good thinking.
Isn't that great?
All I can really do at the moment, at this stage, I think, is try to direct them to my own site. But the whole thing about gigs, you see, as you know, the whole thing about merchandise on gigs is it's the spirit and the moment why people buy it. They're vibed up, they're hyped up, and they buy it online, sitting at home. Who's want to really go? Oh, you buy a souvenir. That's what it is.
If it was any consolation, which I'm not just saying it's absolutely true. I had a long. I was going over to see my daughter, which I'm allowed to do on my own because of numbers, and it took me like an hour and 50 minutes. And what did I play? I played your live album from the Streatham Hideaway to pass the time and cheer myself up. I did. I promise you, I'm not just saying that. It's
How did it sound? All right. I haven't listened.
Great. It sounded absolutely great. I was drumming along. I was drumming along on the steering wheel and everything. Oh, God, arrest me now, why don't you? Bless you. Will they provide? Oh dear. Leo Green, it was a mistake to mention him. He's gone mad now. Will they provide earplugs, Ray? Punters often have them when I do gigs. Ray, thank you very, very much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to chit chat to Phil now. Take care. Don't let your blood pressure get too much. And people are very interested in your points. And so it wasn't just having a moan. It's all about how these things affect our mental health and well-being. Right. God bless. Take care.
You, Phil. Thanks, Russ. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye,
Ray, hello, Ray. Just before you disappear,
yeah.
Final thought that's just cropped in my head. You take this one away and do what you want with it. But as far as merchandise is concerned, they're saying the biggest concern is that people gathering in one place, right, trying to purchase stuff.
Yeah.
Well, why not say during the show, during the performance, here's the merchandise that's available. If you're interested, give a shout to one of the staff and they bring it to the table.
You know what I reckon they've got a hell of a lot to think about. And what I'll probably do is bring a box myself and flog them on the bloody street. I'll sit there with a cigar and a drink and flog them on Fritz.
That's the thing to do.
That's what I think I'll do.
And then get harassed by everybody wandering around outside Bar Italia. Right. Yeah. God bless.
Safe, Ray. Farewell. Bye-bye.
Do you know what, Philip? That was a pretty good idea.
Well, it suddenly popped into
that's a good idea.
Because I thought it's exactly the same premise as when you're in a restaurant now, where you're not really supposed to get up unless you're going to the facilities. And even then, only if you don't see anyone else in the restaurant up and about. What
is that? How do you mean not get up? Why would you? I'm serious. I'm not being facetious. Why would you get up in a restaurant?
Well, some people do. They go up to the bar to say, "Excuse me, can I get more drinks, please?" Or they go up and they try and wait for the bill. Anything like that, you're not supposed to do it anymore. If you're in a restaurant environment, you're supposed to stay at your table and only get up if you're leaving or if one of you is going to the facilities, not a crowd. Anyway, the upshot is the staff have to bring stuff to the table all the time now. That's the whole point. They have to bring stuff to the table. So I just thought maybe it could be the same with that.
Now, Ken Elm, believe me, the one thing you don't want to lose is hope. Because Ken Elm's point is, seems optimism has gone forever here. All we do is we're a barometer for what people are feeling. We're not saying to people, this is the way you have to feel. Now, I think you should know that, Ken Elm. I mean, you've met me. I try to be an optimistic glass half full guy. But it's when it... Well, unless it comes to you, in which case I know I'm in for hiding to nothing. You can't even go to a dinner party without making people leave. I mean, that just tells you everything you need to know.
It's getting a bit crowded. I just wants to clear.
It's Phil's new healthy rule of 5. He didn't like the rule of 6. He thought, how can I get rid of somebody? Right now. We try to be optimistic, but we're realistic. Oh, this was interesting. At Center Parks, the toilets were only to be used by one family at a time, made for very long queues. Oh, dear. Melanie Hutchins, goodie bags to the table. Great idea. Phil, you have hit onto a winner there. Seriously, it's a crackingly good idea. It's a really, really very good idea. I like that a lot.
Well, I
say that. It's a good idea. Why not? You see? I won't fancy queuing for the loo forever. You go in with a family. How does that help?
What it does is it helps build up the appreciation you have for the facilities by the time you actually get there.
Yeah, but with my various problems, I might not get there. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Could happen. You don't know. I don't want to go into it. I cannot say much more of this. It is driving everybody quite round the bend. I think to try and keep a sense of humor. It's not always easy. Thank you, Ed Grossman. That's a very nice comment. It's not always easy. We will be back as ever on, I know we're not time yet, but we'll be back on Wednesday from 12 to 1, and then on Friday, the big grown-up version of our show, which is from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., 3 hours with always brilliant guests, including the always fantastic Chantal Rickards, who is the epitome of suave sophistication. What if your family does not want to go at the same time? I know. This is what worries me. Phil, it will work, but I don't have the space to explain how.
Oh. Well, you have to do it on Wednesday in that case.
Do it on
Anyway,
Wednesday, Ed.
whatever you are doing this afternoon, try and stay positive, try and stay happy. Remember that whatever happens, we'll get through it together, and we will get through the other side eventually. But until that time, you just might be stuck with Russ, Kane, and Phil Dave to keep you company along the way.
You were just cheering people up.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Hey, look, you can't win them all. See you Wednesday at midday. Bye.